Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to the Property CEO support sessions. My name's Ritchie and I'm here with the other half of Property CEO, Mr. Ian Child. It's great to have you here. So what exactly are support sessions when they're at home? Well, these are going to be regular 45-minute sessions where we're going to try and inject a little bit of positivity into what's happening right now. That's right, isn't it, Ian?
Absolutely. Now, if you've not come across us before, we should probably give you a quick introduction. Our day job is training people how to become property developers, but we've got a few grey hairs, and now we're both probably heading into our extremely late 30s. So it's fair to say we kind of lived and worked through quite a number of recessions. Whilst the coronavirus is kind of new, the recession, unfortunately, isn't. And history has taught us that the people that are going to be successful when the upturn comes along aren't watching the storm pass now. They're doing something about their businesses and their livelihoods right now.
Yeah, I think the getting a hair joke in straight away at me was not worth it. That's too early.
I thought I'd set the tone. Okay. That's my only gag, so I've used it up.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't even funny. Look, anyway, we've noticed that over the last week, especially, there's a lot of anxiety and doom and gloom, and we wanted to get people looking at things with their glass half full, not half empty. And these webinars are about what we should be doing now and how we can get to a great place when we come out the other side, which inevitably we will. And they're not just for property people, but for anyone who has a business and who is struggling right now. So we're happy to take any questions as we go through. Just put them into the chat box, into the question box. We'll be talking to start with about some of the great ideas that others have had and some of the questions that's been raised this week so we can sort things out for the better for you. But we want to hear from you. This is for you out there. So any ideas that you've got that we can share with everyone else, that would be great. Put them in the chat box as well. And hopefully what we'll do is we'll get to a point where we can ask some people to come online. We'll open up your mics and get you to ask some questions directly to us. I think to start with, before we get going, I think it's important to say that, there is a lot of some serious stuff going on out there. And we're going to try not to talk about this on this session. There's plenty of that going on. And we are self-isolating, as you can see. Ian is there at home in his home office. I'm actually the only one that comes into our office. I'm here in our recording studio that we've got here at the office. And we ourselves with our families have got some serious stuff going on as well. My wife has some underlying health issues, so we're trying to keep her particularly safe. So we're not belittling that, and we know some people are going through some serious tough times, but this session is all about positivity. So we're going to be upbeat, we're going to be exciting, we're going to try and be enthusiastic, just to give you that little bit of dose of extra energy.
Okay, the self-isolating bit, we should have done this a long time ago, Rich. I reckon this is I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, it is good. It is good. I mean, the as a plus side, all the biscuits that we have in the office for the meetings are all mine. I don't have to share them with anyone else. There is some beer left in the fridge. Mine. So it works. It works. Right, should we get started? Just a little bit of hands up. Can everyone hear us okay? Anyone hear us okay? Put a hands up. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Some hands coming up. I've got a lot of people on here today, so welcome. There's some people we know. Some of our students are on here. Simon, Bob, good morning. Alan, good morning. And some people, Jess is on. We used to work with Jess. Gavin, morning. Sorry, I can't pick up all your names. Malcolm, hello there. Hi from Birmingham Way. So if I've missed your name, I do apologise, but there's quite a few on there, which is great. Questions coming in already. Good morning. Is it too premature and insensitive to be looking for opportunities? Right, we'll try and cover some of that off. Excellent, good stuff. Glad you can all hear us. That's great. Let me just make sure all the hands are lowered. So that's good. Okay, let's kick off with a couple of questions that we've had coming in, and let's just give a little bit of an overview. And the first thing is this question, and we talked about this on one of our Q&A sessions this week with some of our students. And the question was, what do you think the opportunities will be for developers going forward? What do you think the opportunities for developers will be going forward? And I add to that, I was on an all-day webinar yesterday, and a training webinar with some groups of people, and they were saying, some people were saying, should I just shut my development business down? Someone actually said, should I give up? Is it, should I give up? No, don't give up.
That's not even glass half empty, is it?
No, that's completely empty. The grass is broken. Look, seriously, guys, I think the exciting thing is that, and I use exciting. I used this word earlier last week with Ian, and I was a bit guarded with it, wasn't I? Because I said, this is going to be some quite exciting times. And as I say, I'm not belittling the stuff that's going on outside there in the world, and people are going to lose loved ones, and that's tough. I have elderly parents as well. We're trying to keep them self-isolated. But I think the thing is, as a developer, or if you're getting into development, there are terrific opportunities out there. I know a lot of businesses are struggling. Some of our students have other businesses and they are struggling with those. We've got some, I can't see them on, who've got some businesses in the restaurant game. That is tough. I really feel for those guys. But development, and this is a golden opportunity. And in terms of developments going forward, you're never going to have it as good as you're going to get in 3 or 4 months' time for many reasons, and they are absolutely unique at the moment in what we have going forward. So are we yet on, or aren't we diving into recession? Well, almost certainly we're going to be coming into a recession. And the difficulty in a recession is knowing when we're going to come out of it. So what we have property prices going down. So someone said yesterday, should I be offering on a property? No, don't offer at the moment, just hold back. Someone said, I've got an offer in. I said, pull it back out, just hold off for the minute. So it's going down. So what does that mean for us as developers? Well, the properties are going to be better deals. There's going to be some cracking deals out there, okay? There's going to be opportunities where businesses unfortunately collapse or change their mind. So the webinar I was on yesterday had 76 people on it. We had 76 people all on cameras, all on mics yesterday. That's a business, that's a sizable business. And we run a remarkable session all day with separate meeting rooms and all sorts of things. Now, there are a lot of businesses, and one I was speaking to, an old colleague of mine up in Essex, and he works in central London. And he said they're even thinking, their company is saying this works so well. They're having a conference call, virtual call in the morning with coffee. They all sit there having a coffee and a biscuit. He said we do the same at 3:30 and we're getting so much more work done. And I think for those companies that can work in that way, us included, I'm
loving the virtual biscuit idea. That sounds quite a healthy option.
I actually have a small packet of biscuits here, which I'm not going to share. So you're going to have supplies just in case this goes on. So, from that point of view, that individual was saying, look, I'm thinking about, Linda O'Rourke says she loves the biscuits. Linda, these are mine. Nice to see you this morning, Linda, or hear you on there, or know you're on here. So I think that business they're talking about, that business might disappear in terms of its office requirement, and they're actually going to end up perhaps working virtual. So there's another office that might become vacant. So I think the office market could take a little bit of a boost, but those prices are going to be suppressed, where before they were going up and up and up. So that was going to be very difficult. Morning, Sam. Sam is on, one of our elite students. So Sam's on. Good morning, Sam, to you. So I'm picking these up as I go because it's nice to see who's on. I have a big box of them, says Linda, in terms of biscuits. Okay, Linda, it's not a competition about biscuits this morning.
I haven't got any biscuits. I've done something wrong.
But that's because you're so slim. So anyway, if we come back to this opportunity, is that, there's going to be businesses fail, premises that come up. There's going to be developers out there who go, whoa, I've had enough of this. There are a lot of developers who give it a go, which we don't suggest. If you're going to go into development, do it in a proper structured way. But there are some people who's given it a go and thought, this is not for me. There are going to be some developers who've grown too big. They've got too adventurous. They're perhaps too greedy. We probably all know a few of those. They're probably almost certainly going to have some serious problems. And I don't wish problems on anyone, but they're going to have some sites which they probably want to offload. Maybe that's the time in to come and get those. The other thing is, what about retail? What about the high street? I was asked yesterday on this webinar, what's my prediction of development opportunities? And I'm not going to go into this in immense detail today. Maybe this is for another session. But the high street almost certainly is the next big money spinner for developers. Now, it might sound a bit crass talking about money and opportunities, but look, at the end of the day, the government's balancing health and the economy. We have to do the same. You know, I've got to balance the health of my family, but we've got to have a business that survives. We've got to develop. If we're developers, we've got to find those opportunities. We've all got to come out the other side and make money. So don't feel bad about that. And this comment that Ritesh put on, hopefully I've said your name correctly there, Ritesh, is it too premature and insensitive to be looking for opportunities? No, it's not, but your language could be insensitive if you're not careful. You know, don't go out on that basis. One thing I would definitely say, definitely, is never capitalize from someone else's problems out there. You know, if someone else has got an issue, don't really go in and screw them right down for something, because if you capitalize on someone else's pain, you'll regret that forever, and it'll eat you up. So I think the key thing out there is that, you know, yeah, definitely look for opportunities. And because the market's going down, the price is going to get better and better and better. Now, if you think about it, then more opportunities on the market, that's great for developers. What about the money? I keep getting asked, well, what about the money? Is the money going to be there? Some will probably disappear. There'll be some people who just batten down, they keep their cash. I mean, those guys with liquid cash at the moment are very happy, including a lot of quite successful developers. There's a few developers that I know who are sitting now on £300,000 or £400,000 liquid cash. And I'll be honest with you, you know, if you start a development journey and you go well, 3, 4, 5 years, you can have that sort of liquid cash kicking around. And I know a couple of those have just said, you know, we're just battering down. We've shut some of the sites down. We need to look after everyone. They've gone home. They're cracking open a couple of bottles of wine and watching a few box sets. They're not worried. You know, they're in a couple.
I think a bit early for that, though. They might have a few other underlying issues at 10:15.
Yeah, well, they started at 9. I rang them first thing, and they were having the wine. It was open. You know, they got nothing else on there. But you know, I think you know there's definitely going to be developers offloading things. So the opportunities are going to be there. The cash, okay. Well, what's happened to interest rates? They've gone down. So the cash is going to be even keener to get a 8 or 10% sort of return on their money. So that is, you know, really important. And actually, I got Ritesh's name correct. Thank you, Ritesh. I got the pronunciation right. That can't be bad for me, can it? So I think from that perspective, the cash will be there and it will come back. I spoke to a broker this week and he said, just to let you know, we are open for business, but for the right deal. And he said we're open for business for deals that are going to drop into the market at least 12 months away, preferably 18. Okay, so he was talking about deals that really, if you're new out there, and I know a lot of you are, I know some of the names on the list, some I think I recognize from events that you've been to with us, some people I don't know, but assuming you're all relatively new in terms of development, then if you start on your journey now and you're securing a project, the likelihood is 12 to 18 months you're going to be dropping it into the market. Commercial funders, or the one I spoke to, said we're open for business for those sort of projects. And as always, the good projects, the strong projects. And on that basis, what they're saying is, and I think it's probably right, is that the marketplace will be in a position to sort of recover around that sort of time. So that's going to be really good. So I think, you know, all those things coming into play, opportunities out there are still going to be there. The money is still going to be there. In 18 months, the marketplace will probably recover in terms of sale values, even if it's not fully up, the fact that the costs of purchase are down. So are there opportunities? Yes, I think there's opportunities. I think the high street is going to die. I think very quickly some PD rights are going to be introduced to enhance the ability to reinvigorate the high street. If you want, if you're interested, put it in the chat box, let me know. We'll do another session because we're going to do a few of these, and we'll specifically talk about the high street and how I think you could regenerate the high street, because I think that is something that's going to come. So, well, you know, what do you think?
Martin's asked a question about whether PD rights will be extended, and again, it's a subject we can go into in more detail later, but I think there is a great deal of opportunity there. If anybody can cast their minds back to the budget, which seems about 3 years ago now, but it was actually only a couple of weeks back. And there was an announcement that came in the day after the budget about the government was going to be talking about extending PD rights in a number of different scenarios. So obviously, historically, we had PD rights on commercial conversions, commercial to residential conversions. They were then, they've now been effectively made permanent. Industrial conversions are due to end in September this year. Who knows? But certainly the language that we're getting from the government, albeit pre-coronavirus, was very much about, yeah, how can we make create more opportunity? In part because we've got a situation where the planning authorities are kind of under-resourced, and there's lots of other stuff going on, and planning, as we all know, can be a really difficult area and a quite a labor-intensive area that takes a lot of time to get through. So government's really keen to create opportunities for projects to go through more quickly, and PD is a great way of doing that. I think the other thing that's really important to note is that there's this gap that sits in the market between self-builders who build one house at a time and the likes of Barratt Homes who build housing estates. There is this sweet spot in the middle for small-scale property developers who are building more than the house that they live in. They're building several units, but they're not trying to compete with the major house builders. And of course, what happens, Barratts aren't interested in some of these smaller projects and the likes of Barratts. And similarly, self-builders are just building their own homes. So there's this bit in the middle that the government is really keen to target. And of course, it's small-scale developers like us that are going to be taking up that slack, and there's a massive opportunity there. And quite apart from the events that have happened recently, for developers, small-scale developers, to take advantage of that.
Yeah, I think the thing that is that as a small developer, we're very agile. The bigger developers that are struggling, have got big overheads, are going to find some issues. Yeah, they've probably got some cash reserves to some extent, but they're going to lose some staff. Okay, they're going to take a while to get momentum. But new, young businesses, and we're not necessarily young all of ourselves, but yeah, agile developers, businesses that can flex very quickly, move into spaces very quickly, are going to take the opportunities. And I've been in this industry for 37 years, and I've seen a few ups and downs. This one's pretty serious, but there's something which is really important about this one, which is very subtle. And I was talking to people yesterday about it, and they went, "Oh my God, that is so true." And one of the things is, in terms of knowing when to go, knowing when to put those offers in, as Ritesh talked earlier, in terms of looking opportunities, going then to beyond that point to put offers in. When do we do that? When is the market bottoming out? When does it go on that upward curve? And we have seen many times over many recessions and downturns and blips, those developers that are ready and predict that upturn make a lot of money, make a serious amount of money. And that's great, because you can do good stuff with money. You can give money away. You can do all sorts of things with it. Even if you don't want it yourself, you can always pass a bit to myself and Ian. We could do with a few more biscuits to catch up with Linda. But a thing which is subtly very different is that we will know when the upturn's coming. We've never had a recession, in my experience, and I was talking to my father in his 80s about this the night before last. In his experience as well, we've never had a point when we could predict the upturn. We can now, and the reason we can is it's based around a virus, and we are behind others. So wherever China and Italy and Spain do, they've sort of come out of lockdown a little bit. Where is the virus going to go? Where are the numbers of infections going to come? Where are the deaths going to go to? Are they leveling off? Are they going back up again? Are they back under control? We'll know when a vaccine comes in. Okay, so when all these things start to happen, and when we see Italy and Spain and China start to stabilize, for me, that's the time, because you then know that we are only so many weeks behind that before the market levels out. And that's when stuff will strengthen. That's when vendors will be less motivated, because they're going, I'm just going to wait a few more weeks now. So you've got to try and get your purchases in on those motivated sellers, okay, without causing them grief and pain, as I said, but actually, where there's an opportunity and you can help them by buying something off of them, and they get the cash and move on. When you can try and predict the bottom of that curve by watching what happens in those other countries, that's the time when you're going to get in there. Now, that's probably a good few months away. So to some extent at the moment, it's a great time, because we're all at home, to sit and consider and think about what we're going to do. And I think that leads nicely on to this next question that keeps coming up again, which I think would be good for you to answer, Ian, which was, And just before I say that, I see that Jim, hello Jim, good morning to you. Jim says yes, he's keen to understand more about retail to residential conversion. So we'll do that in a bit more detail on another session. But the follow-on question here, which is how can I make the most of working from home and the additional time I have now? So how can I make the most from working from home and this additional time? Because this really follows on. Do you want to pick that up, Ian?
I can pick that up. In fact, I've got a bit of a top 10 on this one because there's been lots of people ask this question.
So you're going to do a top 10. Does that mean you're going to bang on for about half hour? Because I could disappear and come back.
You can disappear if you want.
Those that know Ian, he will top 10. You'll be here till the afternoon, guys. You really will. But go for it, Ian.
I shall keep it brief. Well, thanks for the big build-up. I shall keep it brief. So, first one is about the news. So anybody that knows me knows that I don't tend to listen to the news. Obviously, my habits have changed more recently, but it can be really distracting. It can be easy to kind of get sucked into the kind of media storm that's happening. And I think of the coronavirus thing as a storm that's kind of passing overhead, and we're all looking up at it, and things change daily, it seems. And there's so many stories. You could spend all day glued to the news and still not read all the stories. The trick I've found is pretty much to stick to the headlines and do it once a day. So in terms of making the most from working from home and using the time that you have wisely, I tend to look at probably the BBC News headlines. Tend to be about 6 o'clock of an evening, maybe spend half an hour looking at those. That's by then the government, if they've got anything to say, they've generally said it. And then I can just pick out the salient points. If I need any more information, government website or the WHO website is pretty good. The thing to avoid, and I think it's quite difficult to avoid, is a lot of the human interest stories that are going around, because they're the ones that can really kind of zap your time. You just kind of follow from one to the other, and it just, before you know it, you've spent a couple of hours kind of surfing the news channels. So tip number one, definitely try and keep your news content to the absolute minimum, albeit you do need to consume news, obviously, to make sure that you stay safe and you find out what's going on. Number two is about focusing on your business, as Ritchie said, and preparing for that upward curve. So many people are going to be looking at the storm, and they're going to be thinking of what's happening now as this kind of, they're in limbo. Nothing's happening. They're at home. The kids are home. Business is kind of in limbo, and they're waiting for what's going to happen next when it's all over. Well, the people that are going to be successful and are going to make the most out of to protect their livelihoods going forward are the people that are actually focused on their business now. So do the work now rather than in several weeks or months' time, and prepare for that upward curve, as Ritchie says, which is going to be coming. Tip number three, be positive. Ritchie mentioned this before, where there's a lot of doom and gloom about. You want to be able to be in that kind of whatever percentage of people it is that are just kind of a positive sort of ray of light in every environment you're in. There's not a lot we can do about the situation we're in now. We can do a lot to protect ourselves, but we can't do much to change what's actually happening. So we may as well just bite the bullet and say, okay, this is normal for a while. Let's be glass half full about it. Let's make sure that every interaction we have is a positive one. Not only will you feel better for that, I guarantee you that everybody else around you will feel better for that as well. So having that positive mindset and thinking about life as it is, it sure has its challenges, but thinking of them as opportunities rather than threats is definitely going to be healthier for you in terms of just your frame of mind. Another tip, number four, would be about being regimented. It's really easy from when you're working from home to kind of let your work and your home life kind of sort of mix. So it just becomes one kind of thing. And I found that that's not very helpful. It's not very conducive to getting a lot of stuff done. Some friends of mine were telling me how they've got their kids were learning, obviously, for remotely, and they dress them in their school uniform. So when they're going doing the online learning, they're in uniform, and it just creates that mindset of the things being separate. School is separate to home. Not suggesting for one moment that you put on a school uniform, but to actually just segregate your business life and your home life, rather than letting them mix, and being kind of regimented about that would, I think, go a long way to enabling you to make the most of the time that you have available. Another thing that is a great opportunity now, we've tend to got more time on our hands, is actually learning. There was a great study done as a program that was on a little while ago called, I think it was called the Twin Institute, where they took identical twins, and in this one example, I remember they had to learn a foreign language, and they split the twins up. One learned one way, and the other learned the other. And the idea was that the only thing is different is the method, because the person is effectively the same. But the interesting part is that they gave them effectively a mental agility test, both before they started that exercise and 30 days later. And for both of them, the impact of them actually learning a language for 30 days had doubled their mental capacity in 30 days. It's quite incredible. And we kind of get into a place where we stop learning. When we're kids, we learn a lot, and then we end up becoming teachers rather than students. So take this opportunity when you've got some spare time to learn stuff. It doesn't have to be business stuff. Business stuff is great, but actually it could be anything like learning a language or learning an instrument or anything that you fancied having a crack at. Just take some time out, even if it's just half an hour a day, to say, right, I'm going to do that. And so what it does, quite apart from the fact of giving you an extra thing to do and some variety in your day, it also it improves your mental capacity, because that's the fact that we're learning really does elevate the way in which we do pretty much everything. Tip number 6, how am I doing for time, Rich? Am I banging on a bit?
You carry on. I mean, no one's left yet looking at the attendees, but and there's no complaints come in yet, but you never know. If they do, I'll put my hand up, just stop you.
Let's have a virtual biscuit whilst I crack on with the last 5. So tip number 6, splitting your days into chunks. Some of you may have come across a technique called the Pomodoro technique before, which is, you can Google it. It's there's loads of stuff on it. It's a very well-known technique. It basically involves chunking your day up into typically 25-minute work sessions with a 5-minute break. And what that does is you kind of set the target for what you're going to achieve in those 25 minutes. And basically you just go for it. And because it's only 25 minutes, you can focus on those things really easy without interruptions. It's not like you're taking a whole day to do a big task. You're just using 25 minutes to do a little task. Then you have a break. And the magic of it is that you just get so much more done. You can be ultra productive in a 25-minute session, much more so than if you're kind of taking a step back and looking at a whole day's work or a project or an exercise that you've got to do during the course of the week. Doing it in small chunks, definitely the way to go. Linked to that, tip number 7 is about having a daily routine, and actually having some me time. One of the things that the government has recognized, and it's kind of fairly obvious, that exercise is hugely important now. Even if we weren't getting any exercise before, even if that wasn't one of our things, now it's even more important than we do, because of course we're now much more sedentary. Before we were going out, we were doing stuff, we were more mobile. Now we're sat at home, and not only have we got less movement, we may be more tempted to tuck into those virtual biscuits. So we've kind of got the whole thing kind of working against us at the moment. So taking the time out to do the exercise, just make sure that you get that in every single day is really important, but also just adding to that some other stuff as well. So whether it's some learning, whether it's doing some meditation, anything to kind of like improve the mind. TED Talks, love TED Talks. Don't know if you've ever come across TED Talks on TED.com. It's basically, these are talks that typically last between 10 and 20 minutes, and you can just absorb them and get their content really quickly. Find one you like. There are literally thousands to choose from. And what it does is just kind of get you thinking. It opens you up to kind of new ideas, things that can interest you, keep you stimulated. And because it's only 15 minutes, it's, if you don't like it, you've not really lost much. It's not like you're having to read a book from start to finish. It really is just kind of keeping the mind whirring and keeping you kind of exposed to new ideas. Tip number 8 is about technology. So probably we're all on top of that right now, but there are lots of tools out there that have come into the ascendancy now that we are using day to day. Obviously before we all knew, we've got the mobiles, we've got the landlines, we've got Skype, but certainly a lot of the technology around things like webinars and the ability to effectively FaceTime people and big groups of people and have virtual meetings, make sure that you're set up for that. We don't obviously know how long this is going to continue, and all meetings at the moment are having to be done virtually. So just make sure that you're au fait with the technology that enables you to do that. A lot of it is actually free. And again, lots of stuff online to tell you how to do that. Link to that, tip number 9, be the instigator of virtual meetings. There's going to be a lot of people in your circle, your business circle, who are going to be a little bit isolated at the moment. Business is not running as usual. They're not having the meetings. You're not able to meet them face to face. But can you have those meetings and be instigating those meetings remotely? I don't think we've yet got to the point where that's routine, where business as usual involves setting up virtual meetings. It's almost done on an ad hoc basis, unless your business is networking. But there's no reason why you couldn't actually start a small group of people that are linked through your business, or whatever business that is, whether they're customers, whether they're competitors, whether they're people that you work with that are in your chain. Start those conversations, even just a weekly hour-long session like this, where you can all see each other and just have a chat and kind of all be talking about the stuff that you have in common in terms of the business challenges that exist at the moment, the livelihood challenges that we all have, and how perhaps we can fix those. Not only might you get some great ideas, you'll be forging some great connections, and also you'll be keeping everybody sane, because for a lot of those people, it's going to be quite lonely out there. Their businesses are going to be suffering. They may be a little worried about what comes next. And by having some of that kind of group activity and being the one that kind of makes that happen, yeah, you're going to do yourself no harm whatsoever, but also you're going to be sending out some help to those people as well. And then the final one, as you tuck into your last virtual biscuit, is about helping people. Because that's one of the things that's been great about the last couple of weeks, is seeing how many people, there's this, like, the nation has kind of turned up and is willing to help, and that's great. It's great for oneself as well as for the people we help. As I said, lots of people out there at the moment need help, and to be honest, one of the things that we can do really easily, we've got people that are effectively isolated, and particularly if they're like elderly people and so on, then it's free for us. We have the time. Just have a conversation, just try and reach out to people, make them feel better. You'll feel better too, and the world will be a brighter place. How did I do?
You've done very well. You've done very well.
Great number that I started with. That's all right, isn't it?
Ritesh and I were having a little bit of chat about what flavour of virtual biscuits we should have, and Ritesh has gone for custard creams, which I think is a bit of a poor choice. And Linda says, clearly we need to start a biscuit business. Glad you're having a bit of fun. Also, just notice Amit's on. Julian, I notice you're on. Some of our students on here as well today, which is really, really good. Okay, let's just follow on with another question that we've had, and hopefully you're going to find this one, the discussion around this, useful. And it was, how can I continue to build my professional team if I can't meet anybody? And people are saying, oh, well, what can I do? I can't meet anyone. How can I go out there? And it was particularly around agents. This is how it started, but this is applicable to all of your professional team if you're starting out this journey. And, why can't you meet them? We're meeting you all now. I met 76 people yesterday. Some I've never met, in lots of formats. So the format, obviously, Ian and I've got here, we can see each other. So this is a great way to have a sort of virtual coffee with agents and stuff at the moment. So where are those agents? They're at home. They're sat like you are at home, or maybe they're just sat on their office on their own. I sit in our office on our own, and it's quite nice to have some engagement, particularly when it's visual and you can see people and hear people as you can on these sort of webinars or Zoom meetings or whatever. And if you haven't got some of this software, get some of it. You get a lot of free trial periods. Some of it probably is free out there. So definitely get on some of this. And I'd start making those relationships with those agents, even if I haven't met them, even if this is the early part of your property journey. Get out there and connect with them. Just drop them an email. Are you about? Are you around on Tuesday? Thought we'd just connect up on a virtual meeting and have a chat with them. And I think the thing is, they'll appreciate that, because a lot of their regular developers, perhaps those people that generally have got the deals, who maybe are a little bit more successful, the ones that I said are sat at home with a glass of wine, they're not going to bother. They're not going to keep that relationship going. They don't have to. But if you come in and start saying, well, let's have a chat, what that's going to do is going to endear them a little bit to you, because, as Ian said, be helpful. And in their sort of time of need, when they're sat there and the phone's not ringing, they can't get out. And generally, most agents are generally people. That's why they do it. They want to connect with people. And I think if you're offering them a meeting and just, chew the fat, how's it going at your end? What's going on? How's the family? If you've got elderly parents, what about you, this or that? Are you managing? What are you doing? Are you watching a few box sets? Build a bit of rapport with them. Find out a little bit about them. Find out who they are, what they're interested in. You can build a fantastic relationship online, virtual, with people, and particularly when there's hardly anyone else doing it. And of course, they'll remember you for that. This is going to go on. They will remember you when they come out the other side. Someone said to us as well, but what if they get made redundant? I'm sure some of these agents are going to lay people off, because I think, the reality, this isn't just going to be 3 weeks. This is probably going to be more like 3 months. This is going to be a reasonable journey. I almost certainly at that, in my opinion, it's going to be quite a while yet. So, what if they're made redundant? Well, keep going. Don't drop them like a stone, sort of say, oh, well, you've been made redundant, you're no good to me. What's going to happen to someone that gets made redundant? They're going to pop back up. They're going to come back up in another organization, because that's their skill set. Okay, some of them, it's a bit of a chance you're going to take. Some of them might disappear out the industry and go off and start window cleaning or something like that. But almost certainly, an established agent is probably going to actually pop back up in another agent. Now, I like to go back to the same one. So if you, in their almost their time of need, still say, they say, I'll be made redundant, so I'm not part of Savills or whatever anymore. So yeah, it's no problem. Why don't we just catch up once a week for a chat? Let's just have a bit of a chinwag once a week. They'll remember you. And if they go off somewhere else, they'll remember you when you go forward. And I think that's massively important. So if you engage with all your professional team, just do exactly what you would have done right now, but just do it in a different way. The new norm is the terminology that keeps coming out. So use virtual meetings, use the technology, as Ian was saying earlier, just to connect up and go with people. And that way you can continue to build those relationships. Hopefully that is useful.
I think you can also, Ritesh says that professional teams are a lot more receptive, a lot more time online, and oodles of great advice, and that's so true. That everybody in your professional team, anybody that's involved in any part of your kind of the supply chain to your business, is going to have a perspective on the future. They're going to have a perspective on. They've got lots of knowledge. They're sitting on lots of knowledge. So they've got lots of time on their hands. So establishing those relationships now, establishing that channel, that kind of virtual channel, I think it's a great way of doing two things. One, obviously, unlocking some of that information, establishing those relationships, but also if you're the early adopter here, as I said, this kind of is not currently the norm. We've yet to kind of get to a state of what the new norm looks like yet, because every day something seems to change. Very shortly we will. Who knows, we may be there yet, but we're still thinking there might be things around the corner, some changes to what our everyday life looks like. But as soon as we've got there, and it'll happen fairly soon, then that's the new normal. So great to be an early adopter there in terms of reaching out to people, rather than just simply be the person that latterly finds out about a networking session that you can then tag along with. Be the one that actually instigates it.
Okay, Ritesh, have you got a microphone? If you have, just give me a hands up, because you've got a question there and we could bring you on to ask that question. Just give me a hands up if you've got a microphone at your end there. Ritesh has dropped off, gone to sleep. No hands up, so that presumably means he hasn't got a mic. Well, let me read out Ritesh's question here. Ritesh had a question which I quite like, actually. I think it's a good one, and it says, yeah, sorry, no audio. No problem, I'll read it out. If anyone has got a question that they want us to pick up, just put your hand up, give us a wave, and I'll try and come to you, particularly if you've got a mic. If you haven't got a mic, it's no good, because you'd have to shout really loud and we won't hear you. So if you want to put your hand up, if you've got a question on a mic, then we'll bring you on. Ritesh's question was, he said it's one for Ian, but I might start with this just because I'm greedy and I like to answer the questions. And it says, should I consider business acquisitions where there might be a property on the balance sheet for a possible development opportunity? Yes, definitely. I think that's exactly a conversation I had with someone earlier this week. the businesses that are failing, okay, that are going down, and there's going to be a lot. I mean, let's be fair. To some extent, you could almost argue this is a cleansing exercise. You know, if you want to be a little bit commercially harsh, those businesses that can't survive have not been in a really good position. You know, there was a conversation about some of the big retail giants out there that, well, you know, the world was changing. Some of them aren't shifting where they want to be. You know, the Debenhams operation that exists around a lot of places around the country has just not really flexed with times going forward. I went into one a few months back, and it's just, you know, it's just the whole place is dead. There's no one shopping in there. The only way I believe they survive is they own most of their properties, and that's what someone told me. So their rent bill isn't there. But that's a business which is really on the way out, and the people don't need it anymore. People don't require it. We shop in a different way. So I think what will happen is that you're going to get positions in businesses where they are going to go down. And as I say, you don't capitalize on someone else's pain or grief, because it will eat you up inside. But if you are able to help them by going in and making them an offer, and it's going to, you know, it's going to be a cracking deal right at the moment, because we're on a downward slope. You can decide whether you think that's the right deal at the moment. But Ritesh, if you can see a business out there, and I would say to others out there that monitor what's happening in your area. If you're working in your area, get out on the high street. Look out. Someone said the zombie companies. I like it. So get out on the high streets, get out into the business parks. Look for those areas where, you know, maybe you just see things that aren't really going to be working out. I know you're not allowed to get out there at the moment, but you can do one walk a day, or take the dog out. If you haven't got a dog, borrow someone's dog so you can go for a walk or something like that. But don't touch the dog. I think it can live on dog fur. Did you know that? It stays on dogs. Dogs can't get this, but apparently lives on dog fur. Did you know that? Just as a little technical tip, I found that out last night from my son.
Not from your dog, hopefully.
I don't have a dog. No, I don't know. No, I'm not really a dog person, but my son has one, so he told me this. So anyway,
no end to the useful advice that we're giving people here.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
Dog fur included.
Someone said Google Maps virtual walk. Yeah, of course you can do a virtual walk through Google Maps. But what I was thinking of was being up to date. So when the time is right, have a look at those businesses that don't resurrect. You know, if the shutters don't go up after the government lets us get out there, then maybe those businesses are struggling. Maybe they're not going anywhere. Do the normal sort of thing that we talk about finding off-market deals. Get on to land registry, find out who owns it. Is it the same person that actually exists in there? Is it an owner occupier? You know, relate that to Companies House. Go to Companies House, land registry, link the two up, look at the state of that business. If the shutters don't go back up, the likelihood is that business might have gone. Okay, so just have a look around and see what's happening. Did they used to advertise? You know, if you're in your local area, you'll know whether these businesses advertised or didn't advertise. If they didn't advertise, then, they did advertise, but now they're not, you know, maybe that's a sign. So definitely have a look around. Take some accountancy advice, because the key thing here is that what you want to be careful of is that you don't buy yourself a whole load of trouble. It might have a great building on the balance sheet, but be careful that you don't end up buying the business and then get caught with a load of redundancy payments. I've seen people do that before, where they think they bought a business. Oh, great, I've got a property, I'm going to get rid of everyone, but you've got some redundancies. So you might get caught with that. Or you might have to, even if you say, well, I'm going to buy it in a new company, you're going to start 2Ping people across. Just take some proper advice on it to make sure it's okay. You can buy the goodwill of a company, not the staff, and you can buy the building. But just be very careful, because in the current circumstances, if you're doing something a little bit iffy as far as the government's concerned, they will come down hard on you when things pick up, almost certainly. Because if you go in there and you find a way of dumping the staff, get rid of the staff, and you should have 2P'd them across in some way, then they are going to be looking at you for that. So there could be a real problem there. That could be an issue.
I think that's great advice. I think you'll be very, very careful, make sure that you've got all the facts. But actually, in a lot of situations there, it can actually be a very good kind of win-win, because of course, you know, the very nature of where we're at does mean that some businesses aren't going to survive. And in that circumstance, what do those business owners need? You know, they're ultimately potentially if the business has failed, then what's their exit? And if you're able to offer them an exit, it's up to them obviously whether they take it, but then you're giving them some options. So it's a kind of potential win-win there, where you're helping them, and obviously as a result, as Ritchie says, you can potentially make your numbers work better because of the situation. So yeah, it's hopefully a win-win.
Great stuff. Now we're about on the 45 minutes. We wanted to keep these sessions to 45 minutes, so you're not sat here. You can go and hopefully, as much as you can, enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Can you give us a quick hands up if you have found this useful, please? Just a quick hands up if you found it useful. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That's good. Hands up everywhere. Brilliant. Brilliant. Let's see if anyone didn't put their hand up. We can home in on them. No, I think most of them are coming up, so that's good. Really enjoyed it. Yes, thanks. Great suggestions. Very useful. Really good. Thanks. Don't know how to put hand up. Don't worry about it, Michael. No idea how to do that, says Jim. Don't worry about it. That's cool. If you found it useful, that's great. Then that's good from our perspective. We will be doing these again. So just keep an eye out for this. I think for this support session, that's it. Hopefully it's been as useful as we could make it. If you want to join our next support session, then just go to www.propertyceo/webinars and register. The new link will be up there very shortly. We're probably going to do that probably Tuesday or something like that. We're not sure when. We'll vary the times around, but there'll always be about 45 minutes. Just a quick sort of injection of energy. Thanks, guys. Thank you very much. Yeah, thanks. Very useful. Thanks, Maria. Have a good one, Simon. Thank you. Thank you, Ritesh. Stay safe. Brilliant. Love your comments coming in. That's very good. I'm glad this is appreciated. It's just about injecting a little bit of positivity into your day. Hopefully you're going to go off and your Saturday is going to be a bit better for spending a bit of time with us, and we'll try and do this as we go forward. Someone says my key takeaway is to structure my day, which is something I lost when I started home working. Obviously really
that's good. Really that is good. I thought there was going to be the key bit of information that you got from here was to drink lots of wine and eat virtual biscuits. So that is actually a major plus. I'm glad that's done.
That's great. Thank you so much, says Karen and Ian. Don't forget to mention your book. Mine arrived on Tuesday, Dave. Thank you, Dave. Dave, you went offline just earlier, but you had a question. Maybe we'll answer that in the next session. Yeah, we do have a book out. If you want to have a read of this, I just happen to have one right next to me. There is a book. Yeah, it's Industrial Conversion Site. It's a bit dark. You might better see that. It's on Amazon. We've currently reduced the price at cost. Whatever Amazon charges us a fortune. So, it's out there at cost, I think £6 something.
Something like that, yeah.
We don't make any money out of it for biscuits, but if you want it, have a good read. It was reviewed in YPN, so it's quite good. So thanks for mentioning that. Someone says, I love my book. They've already got it. Home working would recommend looking at LinkedIn training. Yeah, good idea. Simon says, have a look at LinkedIn training for a few of you out there. That's great. And Linda says her book's coming on Monday. Karen says it's a great read. Okay, folks. Ian, any final words to say?
No, just keep safe and keep kind of focused on making your businesses work and looking forward to what, as Richard said, is a very exciting time in many respects, challenging as well. But I think with the right mindset, that positivity, there's some very exciting times ahead. And working together, we can make some very exciting things happen.
We got thanks very much. Trish says have a great weekend. Thank you, Trish. And Jim, final comment says thanks, guys. Great session. All right, be safe, be positive, be helpful to others. We'll see you next time. Thank you.
Bye.